Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk to, oh, actually a little life lesson that came up from something simple like pruning an apple tree. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like and tell your friends and send me a message. If you don't, send me a message anyway. Tell me what you'd like to hear. So Saturday, I ended up in a situation where I was pruning an apple tree. And of course, summer is not exactly the ideal time to prune something like a fruit tree. Of course, spring is even worse. You'd prefer to do it before spring started or as soon as autumn's kind of on the onset of autumn. But nonetheless, it was requested of me to do that. And because of that, and it was a nice day, I thought, well, it's probably not bad. And I meant to, oh, I think it's Michael Phillips has a wonderful book on doing growing organic apples, running an organic apple orchard. And I think it was either in his book or in some of the material he talked about that the best way to have a fruit tree pruned is to stand underneath it, and from everywhere you should be able to see the sky because you want a lot of air to get through the tree. And this poor baby was just tremendously overgrown and neglected for years. But I did notice it was just loaded with these green tart apples. I mean, it was just producing like crazy, and it hadn't been sprayed or anything for many years. So a lot of them had imperfections, but a lot of them were full size apples and looked really great. So I started pruning it, and I actually ended up, all told, probably put about 3.5 hours into it. It took a while. And um, sitting the whole time, of course, if you knew me, the whole time I was sitting there, every time a drop apple would hit, I'd look at it. It was kind of like, this isn't a great apple. You know, great apples I was just setting aside and putting them in a bag. But it's not a bad looking apple. Cut the bad spots out and eat it. And I must have eaten, probably a dozen and a half apples through the course of the afternoon. It was actually great. All these fresh apples. Like I said, all the other ones I was setting aside, I'd probably say pretty good. It was a full size shopping bag full of nice size, nice looking green apples that from the branches I had pruned and other ones that I saw drop. They weren't perfect, but they're perfectly good and they're unsprayed. It's just lovely apples. So ultimately, I ended up leaving them at church and talked to one of the priests and said, I could leave them. Do you want to leave them for the Spanish community? Do you want me to put them at the front of the church now? Because there was an English mass starting at the same time. For those of you who don't follow me regularly, I sing in the Spanish choir, so I go to Spanish services. And so he said, why don't you leave them for the Spanish community? And and I, in my heart, agreed because I knew they would really appreciate getting fresh, totally organic, not certified organic, but truly, completely unadulterated food. And indeed, I checked after Mass the next day, and the entire bag was taken. And I was really excited because I thought I was sitting there thinking, oh, what recipes do I have to work with on green apples? And I'm organic eat them, of course. And didn't even have the opportunity. I don't know who it was, but I'm sure they're planning to make, something yummy using grandma's recipe or something. And it was what struck me was it wasn't like somebody took a couple or they looked at them and said, oh, they're not perfect or whatever. They were just thrilled to get a whole bag of apples that were in good shape and brand new fresh. I mentioned they were right from across the street. There's a convent there. I said apples from in front of the convent. They knew where the tree was. They knew the whole history. How good does it get? So, what are the takeaways from this little story? Well, first takeaway obviously is I'm a longtime eater of dropped fruit. I do it all the time. I have pear trees in the yard also, and the particular variety I have, name escapes me right now. But they're the kind of pear, they're not like Bartlett pears, we just pop them off the tree and eat them. They have to sit and age for a while. And it turns out I found that when I do the grass cutting in the fall, just before the frost starts to come, they've been sitting either on the tree or on the ground just long enough that they are delicious. And so I'll eat all the good parts out of the apple, heave it over the fence, and the deer finish it off for me. Love it. Natural eating at its very best. But I also knew that most of the Anglo community wouldn't be interested in these. Big takeaway, because they weren't perfect. They might have had a little spot on them. Any ones with wormholes and stuff, I set aside. Nothing like that. It's just the apples were all in good shape, but they weren't perfect. However, all my friends in the Spanish community, for them, they were super special. They were fresh, chemical free, and they were just plain free. Like it was win, 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 one thing after another. And, even though they weren't fully ripe, they were totally edible. They were a little tart, but if you like tart apples, they're fantastic. I'm sure they had recipes from somewhere, so they knew what to do with the apples. And they just had a great time with them. And it's made me really happy that here are all these apples that probably typically would have just been discarded or left to fall on the ground actually were used. But as so often happens, most of the people that had the opportunity, they were missing all the great opportunity in search of the perfect opportunity. They'd rather buy nice looking apples that are literally covered in poison at the store rather than enjoy truly delicious fruit right off the tree. And we're talking right off the tree. So there's this double-edged negative going on for these people that wouldn't be interested in the apples. They're missing the amazing right in front of them. Plus, they're chasing the inferior because they're following it for the wrong reasons. They're following it for appearance instead of real value. So you probably see where this is going if you follow me at all, right? Although this is pretty easy to see in terms of farm fresh fruit, think about how many other ways which we mislead ourselves due to poor external influences. Are we more worried about Facebook friends who really don't care about us, while we ignore our own friends and family? Or, are we busy making sure our car is pristinely clean while maybe not having the time to play some games with our kids or do some things with the grandkids? What about knowing every sports score and statistic, but not really being sure how Congress and the three branches of government are supposed to work, and maybe not even knowing how our own government representatives are? It isn't because we're all stupid, far from it. It's usually because there are many forces at work that want to take our focus off of the important things to emphasize things that keep us distracted, or perhaps just makes us something profitable for a business. Much like hurrying past that gorgeous apple tree to rush to the store to get poisonous apples, now and every day is a good time to reevaluate what's important in our lives and revisit our own life vision. Is every single action in our lives moving us closer to our vision and all the intermediate SMART goals? And we know what SMART goals are, right? So is everything moving us towards where we want to go? Or do we treat that vision like some dream? A dream is something you think of, that'd be nice, but that'll never happen. And instead focus on what society tells us is important. We have a really clean car. We get a new car every year. We get a new phone every year. And, society is only too happy to tell us how to spend our money that keeps us involved in having to run the same game over and over again. Every day is a precious gift, and we should really make the best of every single one of them. That starts with seeing all the gold laying all around us and learning to ignore all the fool's gold that society and business uses to distract us. Working all afternoon, eating fresh apples that were minutes off the tree, improving that tree's health, really made me refocus on what a better priority that was than almost anything else I could have been doing that day. Getting this huge life lesson, right, and an episode topic were totally unexpected bonuses. I thought I was just helping somebody out who asked that it be trimmed. And here it was. I met a bunch of people, talked to a bunch of people. There's a quinceanera going on across the street. Had a lot of fun talking to a couple of people going to that. Happened to get some pictures that they missed, sent them to them. They were super excited. It was just an awesome day for doing something simple and not like going to the huge grocery store, going to the mall, doing whatever, and spending money trying to find happiness when I had happiness right there in front of me, right? The point is really, if we open ourselves up to life, life has a way of giving us a lot of gifts in return. So, as always, your homework, always optional, is to think of some of the things that you didn't do or pursue or try because someone else said it wasn't worthwhile. Oh, you've never been very good at music. I wouldn't try playing the piano, or don't even get that ukulele. I mean, you weren't very good at math, so why would you try and learn how to do a checkbook? Or why would you get an accounting program? Whatever it is. You weren't very fast ever in high school, so why would you try running now? A friend of mine actually is kind of funny. I see him on Facebook fairly often. We worked together for a while. He's a good business friend. And he started running in his late 50s, I think it is. He's a few years older than me. And so now in his early 70s, he's still running half and full marathons. He looks awesome. And I'm sure, just guessing, because he was never a real athletic guy, that probably, depending if he wanted to listen to certain people, they'd say, oh, don't start running now. I mean, you're too old to run. It's probably not good for your health. And you really weren't very good anyway. But he didn't do that. Instead, He followed his own vision, and he's having a blast. And if his dog wants to go for his run, boy, his dog gets a treat because the dog might be going, miles at a time. So revisit your own life and try to imagine all the things you would have done if that other negative influence wasn't there. Make a new kind of dessert, learn a musical instrument, study for a new job, completely different field, whatever. It's never too late, rather, to start living your own dream. So that's it for the evening. Thanks so very much for joining me tonight. UKR7.com, list of donations. The other one is United 24. I meant to get the URL and I apologize. That's the official Ukraine one. I should add that to the webpage. Things in Ukraine right now, hard to believe, have gotten worse. That Russia's doing things. They just bombed a cathedral this morning. How nice of them. And another one, I should say. And they have been blowing up the port of Odessa and stopping the exports. And they said they don't care if they starve the world. Also, how very special. So things in Ukraine, they can really use a little support. But if for whatever reason you don't want to support Ukraine directly, also link there to World Central Kitchen, WCK.org. And, I would suggest if you can and you're able and you have the mood and the funds, support somebody who's in need. And if you don't have the funds, you can still support somebody. See somebody looking down, you don't have to say, hey, what's the matter? You just say, hey, how's it going? And if they just say, oh, things are okay, just start talking to them. You don't have to say what's wrong. Just talk to them. Just be a friend. Just let them know, hey, I saw you here. I'm here. Let's talk for a second. That's all you have to do. And you can make somebody's life very, very different. As I said often, and say actually at the end of every episode, that, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. It takes the focus off of looking inside and you then look outside, and it really changes your perspective on the world. And the world recognizes that, and it changes other people's perspective on themselves and the world also. It's really a great way to just kind of spread a more open view and a more caring view. You can talk about forcing people to have empathy or whatever. It doesn't work. The way you get people to have empathy is to show them empathy, and then they'll pay it forward automatically. So as always, again, remember, one of the best ways to care for yourself, care for others. If you can and you're able, please check out UKR7.com or any of the many, many other ways you can help people in the world. Truly appreciated. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting and useful, please pass it along and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have an awesome, great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.